Good day, everyone. I'm Attorney Linda Bernard, and you're watching Chop It Up with Attorney Linda Bernard, live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, and other top social media platforms. Like, follow, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. And ladies and gentlemen, I have the coolest brother in the city of Detroit with me today. And he's going to tell you so much about himself, but if you could just stop looking at him for a minute, and listen to him, I think you'll be equally as impressed as I am. Mr. Rudy Harper, a gentleman, ladies and gentlemen, who is not from the city of Detroit originally, but has been here now for some time, and he's going to tell you all about that. But right now, you see, he has a badge around his neck, just like I have around mine. He's a deputy chief for the Detroit Police Department. Not a cop, but a deputy chief. He'll explain all that in a minute. And, of course, I'm the police commissioner for District 2 for the Detroit Police Commission, the elected commissioner for that district. How are you, Rudy?
Life is good. God is good. And thank you for having me.
Well, you're more than welcome. I started this monologue by talking about you and that you're not being from Detroit. Where are you from, my brother?
The suburbs of St. Louis.
St. Louis Blues.
Yes. The show me state, as
Right,
they say. Show me
right.
7 will show you 8 is a saying there. But St. Charles, Missouri, family still lives there today. Great community, great people there in St. Louis also.
Okay. I used to spend some time in East St. Louis. The mayor there was a good friend of mine, Carl Officer. I don't know if you know him. His Officer Funeral Home is the biggest funeral home, obviously, in East St. Louis and so forth. But St. Louis is a beautiful community.
Indeed it is. That's my roots. That's what, raised me. So love the community. Loved going to the flea market on Saturdays with my mom. Loved going to the Arch. Loved going to the amazing zoo downtown. So.
Well, I like going up in the Arch. I like going up the Arch to the very top of the Arch. St. Louis's iconic symbol for the world,
Yes.
of course, is the Arch. What the Arch was made for? What reason? I don't recall.
It's the gateway to the west.
Oh, that's right, gateway to the west.
Right there at the Mississippi River, right?
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. As my mother would say all the time, because my parents are from Mississippi. Every time we crossed the Mississippi, she'd say, "So wide and so deep."
Yes.
That was every time I cross it now, I'll say the same thing. So wide and so deep. Which it is, and now I'm sure it's huge with all of this rainfall throughout the Midwest because it swells and swells
Yes.
and swells and
Yes.
takes over major communities.
It does indeed, and we have had a historic flooding in communities that devastated communities. As I was growing up, watching that, and it was just a story of the times my grandparents would tell stories about back in the day. Because St. Charles is on the banks of the Mississippi, also.
Correct.
And so, our parks down there would flood, and it was a spectacle. People would go down there and look at the flooding, and it was something to do. You see kids at the fences looking through, and grandparents making their way down. So.
Well, I think we're doing that in Detroit today as a result of flooding, and particularly out near Grosse Pointe. All the freeways, ladies and gentlemen, here are flooded out. And Rudy was just on the news a few minutes ago. We're going to talk about the police department in a second, but you were just talking about it to the persons in the city of Detroit who have WJR, which goes like for 5 states. What were you telling us about what's happening here?
Well,
You have some familiarity as a result of St. Louis Blues.
Sure, yes. It's just, it's dangerous. We always warn people, if you don't have to go out, don't go out. And of course, if you see that pooling water, turn around. Don't take your chances. I mean, right now there's so many cars out there that are stranded that you really have to be careful. I mean, there's cars literally on the freeway in the middle lane that are just sitting there with no hazard lights on. So, you're going 60 miles per hour, you come up upon one of those cars, there's no way you're going to stop. So it's a dangerous situation out there. And MSP, of course, they
Michigan
control,
State Police.
Yes, they control the freeways, and DPD, we're trying to, assist in our communities to help the residents.
Right. I know exactly what you're saying. My sister says all the time that in Detroit, people like to quote, she calls it hit the ditch, because that's the freeway, because the freeways in Michigan are below the ground level. So she says, and now when they hit that ditch, they're hitting that lake that's down there. They're not hitting that ditch. There's no pavement down there. There's just a lake, lakes and lakes and lakes throughout this community. So hopefully that will all clear up very, very soon. But tell me about you. You are a major news personality here in the city of Detroit. You've been on the air. Why don't you tell us about your matriculation? And ladies and gentlemen, I think this is important because so many young brothers and sisters have talent.
Yes.
Not, I would say talent as great as yours, but they certainly have talent.
Sure.
And they want to move forward in not only the visual arts but every kind of artistic development or
Yes.
area. So tell me about you. How'd you get into being the face? He is now, ladies and gentlemen, the face of the Detroit Police Department.
Well, what I learned over the years is that it's important to reach back,
Okay.
and give back to people, right?
Right.
And someone did that for me growing up. So as a young kid, I would watch the news with my mom and my grandparents, and it would always be on. And I saw this African American man, and I said, "Who is that guy? Who is he?" And eventually, my mom told me that's Art Holiday. He's from our community. His mother's friends with your grandma. And I said, man, if he could do it, then I could do it. And I ended up going down to the news station to meet him. And he
Really?
showed me around the station. He took me into the studio, showed me behind the scenes. And I knew at that point that I could do this, right?
And you fell in love.
Fell in love
with the
it.
microphone.
Yeah, with the microphone.
And the
always
camera.
in the camera, right? I've always loved to tell a story and take people on a journey, right? I always thought that was cool. Like in remembering stories that someone else told me, if it was a joke or just a crazy story my grandpa would tell me, I always remember every single detail. And then I would pull out the best parts.
Okay.
Yeah, and then tell the story, right? So I always felt I had a knack for giving people information that they wanted and needed. In a timely fashion, in a shorter fashion, or people say, land a plane, come on, land a plane. So I've always prided myself in that. So I went to college. And
Where?
I played, my first college was in South Dakota because I was a student athlete. So I played basketball.
What? Basketball?
Yes.
Oh, so you're b-ball. Okay.
Yes, basketball. So played soccer growing up.
You're 4'?
6'2".
Okay. All right.
On the roster, I may be 6'4".
Okay. All right. Okay,
Intimidate the other team a little bit, right? So played college basketball in South Dakota for 2 years, and I was pursuing a business degree, and I knew that this is not my passion. I knew I needed to have a broadcasting degree, and this small Catholic college did not offer a broadcast degree. So my friend was playing at Kentucky, and he was transferring to a school in Kansas City, Missouri. And he said, we were home during the summer. He said, I'm going to go over there and play for the coach real quick. Do you want to go to Kansas City, Missouri with me and just do a tryout? So I went with them. Park University. It's a small school right outside of Kansas City.
Not that small. It has a sports program. It has a basketball program.
It does. NAIA D1 division. So tried out. The coach happened to like me, and I signed up to go there. They had a journalism program there, and some devoted faculty and staff there that really took the time to invest in their students. And they also had adjunct professors who were in the profession of broadcast. So I had two internships at 2 different stations in Kansas City while I was in school. And so I was getting the training and everything else right away.
Let's see. Now, Kansas City is really on the map right now. It was always on the map for its barbecue and for its culture and everything, and it being like the heart, if you will, of the Midwest. But it's really on the map now because of my Chiefs, the Kansas City Chiefs.
Mahomes.
Woo-wee!
He's something else. I've hung out with him before.
Did you really?
Yes.
What's he like?
Okay, so Mahomes is one of the most gracious athletes I've ever met. And I've met many athletes over the years. The way you see him on TV and the way that he's humble and kind, giving person, that's the way he is in real life. Seriously.
He seems that way, but he's the $500 million man now. I
Boy,
mean,
bad.
he is beyond bad.
Boy, bad.
Oh, but I could, we're off the topic, but this last Super Bowl was, I was pulling. I never pull against a black quarterback, but I was actually pulling. I don't because of Brady, because I don't like the fact that they say he's too old to do what he does. So ageism to me is a real problem.
Sure.
So I was like really pulling for Brady to show that all of this stuff about, well, you're too old. You don't tell me when I'm too old to do what I do. I know when I'm too old to do what I do. Don't assume any facts that aren't in evidence.
He showed it.
And so but I could also tell the difference in Kansas City because I think of what the coach was going through, Reed, with that arrest of his son and all that. I mean, he just wasn't present in the game, and I can understand that. He's a great guy,
yes.
A great coach.
Heartbreaking what happened.
Yeah.
With the little girl.
Yeah.
You can't, talk about that story without thinking about her and her family. And,
right.
the trauma that they're going through right now, and
Correct.
because of a reckless decision.
Correct. And I always remind people of that. Even as a lawyer, there are two victims. We talk about the victimization of the person who
Yes.
died or something, but that person who created that situation, their family is also grieving because now they're going to lose their son or daughter, whoever, to prison, and so it's traumatic on both sides. And the person who taught me that was Reverend Jesse Jackson
Yes.
at a funeral for a young boy for 15. He was 15. He was killed here near Detroit in the suburbs. And when he preached the young boy's funeral, he said there are two victims here. One, both families are grieving greatly because it was like an accidental thing, gun went off, that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
But both families are grieving because of the circumstances of this. That's why we try not to get to that
Yep.
that point. But okay, back to Kansas City. I was saying, so then you did what?
So Kansas City.
This is before Mahomes.
Yeah, before Mahomes, correct.
My
Yes.
main man.
Yes, and so graduated college and thought about going back to St. Charles, but decided to stay in Kansas City for a little bit. So I worked at a news station. They hired me as an associate producer. So I was making like $15 an hour, and then I
Wow.
had serving. I was
Big
serving
title,
tables.
little money, huh?
Big title, little money. Serving tables at the same time. Monday through Friday, I was waking up at 1 a.m., going into the news station till
Really?
6 a.m. And then I would go home and take a nap, and then I would go to the restaurant and serve tables and make the quick cash.
So you paid your dues.
I
You
tried
let
to.
that smile work for you at the restaurant, and it worked for you behind the scenes
Well,
at the station. But that's when you were really hustling.
Yeah,
Because they didn't care about your smile.
No, they didn't, right. I had bills to pay. So, but soon after that, I got a job at my first station in Pittsburgh, Kansas, Joplin, Missouri area. That's
Okay.
where they had a terrible tornado back in 2001.
I remember that.
And that was my first on-air job.
And what were you doing on air?
Running, covering the cat in the tree, and
So
no,
you were a reporter.
I was
You
a
were out
reporter,
in
yes.
the community, not just sitting at the desk.
Nope, I was in my first on-air job, and I remember going down there, trying to find an apartment. I remember, Linda, Commissioner, I should say.
Yes,
I remember
Linda.
making, every 2 weeks, my checks were like $500, something like that.
Okay.
And my rent was like $585.
Okay.
And so, money was tight.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never forget the story one time that I was, got off work, and, it was late, 11 o'clock, and I wanted to grab a burger real quick, right, from McDonald's. I think it was a McDouble, $1 burger,
Okay,
right?
right.
Went through the line, ordered the burger, handed my debit card to the girl, and she's like, "Excuse me, that card didn't work. Do you have another one?" And I remember not having any money in that line. And I was like, I don't. And I could have called, back home and said, "Oh, I need some money, money or
Right,
something."
right.
But I didn't. I said, "You know what? That's okay." And I went home. And I thought, that lesson, that always stood out to me. Like, man, that's what
Real people have to deal with.
to deal with, right?
Right.
And I had, fortunately, I'm way more fortunate. I had the ability to call someone to put money in my account, but it was just like, whoa,
Right.
a burger,
Right.
Yeah.
For a dollar burger.
$1 burger,
99 cents plus
99
one.
cents.
Right.
Didn't have it.
Okay, so now we're in this community where you are a on the air personality.
Yep, reporter.
And then what's happening after that?
So 18 months was when my contract expired.
Okay.
So I was 18 months there, and then I had my next job already. I was moving to Mobile, Alabama.
Okay,
Roll
all right.
Tide,
We're getting
they
ready
say.
to start with Mobile in just 1 second, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching Chop It Up with Attorney Linda Bernard, also Police Commissioner Linda Bernard, live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, and other top social media platforms. Like, follow, share, comment, and subscribe. Feel free to contact us. Thank you again for watching WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. And I have the coolest brother in the city of Detroit with me today, Deputy Chief Rudy Harper. Okay, back to the story.
I'm still not used to the title yet, but
Yeah,
we're gonna get
DC.
there. Yes.
In the commission meetings, ladies and gentlemen, we refer to all the deputy chiefs as DC Bryant or this now it's DC Harper.
Correct,
So go ahead,
correct.
Deputy Chief Harper.
Correct. So I'm moving to Mobile, Alabama. Of course, it comes with a significant pay increase. I think it was like $20,000 more.
All
So I'm
right.
like, hey,
You rolling now.
I'm gonna make this big money now. I thought at the time. So I moved to downtown Mobile, Alabama, to work for a station, a Fox station. They were not affiliated with Fox News, but it was a Fox on the Fox channel, and WALA. Fox 10 News is their name. And Mobile, Alabama was an interesting city to live in. They party all night and all day.
Isn't it wonderful? In the
Like
South,
New
we don't
Orleans.
have any issues. Like everything is so rigid in the North. They're trying to catch you doing something wrong. I say all the time. But down there, everybody, you just talk, you communicate, you just keep it moving.
Yes, indeed, they do. 6 a.m. You start to see the sunrise and having a good conversation with a stranger.
Correct.
Yes, it was wonderful. It was close to New Orleans, so I was always down the highway in New Orleans hanging out, which is a wonderful city. Those are some of the kindest people in New Orleans.
The whole South is different than the North. The Southerners are different than Northern, and clearly people on either coast. Both of them, Hollywood is like Hollyweird, and the East Coast is all, I am a Brahmin, I'm a Boston Brahmin or whatever.
Right.
But the South is just so nice. The people are so very nice. And incidentally, the number one football team for the entire South, Mississippi, where my folks are from, Alabama, everywhere, is of course who that?
Who that?
The Saints, the New Orleans Saints.
Yes.
Who that?
And then Roll Tide, the Alabama. That's some bad boys. I've been to those games.
Don't talk about Alabama. Oh no.
They something else.
Ooh-wee. And the Crimson Tide.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're both amazing teams and organizations, and the structure that they have in place is amazing.
Right.
So in Mobile, Alabama, working as a reporter again. I'm still lugging around my camera equipment and interviewing people, looking for top stories. I remember I got some heat because I covered a story one time about these security guards that worked for the city who were sleeping on the job. They had a precinct downtown, and you could see inside the precinct. They had cameras up and down the street. They had a street called Dolphin Street. It's kind of like Bourbon Street, with bars and restaurants all the way up and down. And there's cameras. And so these people in the precinct, downtown precinct, were supposed to watch the cameras and alert officers to crime immediately. But they were sleeping on the job.
Of course, it's nighttime.
It's night, right? Mm-hmm. So when I walked by, I used my cell phone to kind of record some of the folks sleeping.
That's the reporter in you.
It was, and I would be out, and it became like the joke. Like my friends would be like, "Hey, they sleeping over there. You better go get them, real quick."
Wow, no.
Or somebody would send me video of them sleeping on the job, and I did that story. And the mayor of the city at the time, he's still the mayor now, he did not like that story. Did not like it.
Why? It's the truth. He should have taken corrective action. That's what you do.
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't think they commented on the story. We interviewed people about it, and that's the news job. Hold people accountable.
Correct.
Be mad all you want, but that's the job
right.
of their job to do, and that's their expectation from their bosses.
So he got mad at you.
So they were upset with me.
And then what happened?
We moved forward. I think people forgot about the story. They called the news station, called my bosses. They tried to.
Really?
Oh yeah, they called.
So they want to suppress the freedom of the press.
Oh yeah, and the business, and that they want to be friends and everybody, so they, watered down the story a little bit and made,
As opposed to dealing with the problem. I got you. You became the enemy.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Not the real perpetrators,
right.
Just because you reported it.
That's the business of news, which we can talk about too.
Okay.
So, I was in Mobile for 2 years, and then I got the call back to come to Kansas City, back to where I was, where I went to school, to be a reporter at a CBS station, KCTV5 News. And I did not intern for that station, but they were affiliated with the station in Mobile, if that makes sense. So it's just a transfer. So longer you're at a station, the more vacation you get, and those type of perks. So I'm going back to Kansas City.
So you kept your suitcase packed.
Kept it packed.
Okay, keep
kept
up.
it packed. That's
Go
right.
ahead.
So I arrived back in Kansas City. Moved back into a place that I lived in before. Started working for a station. It was great. I felt like I was hitting my stride in Kansas City, getting better at storytelling, and then Detroit called.
The Motor City?
The Motor City.
Contacted Kansas City? Okay, go ahead. I'm listening.
And I never expected to live in Detroit. But, I feel as if Detroit's the best kept secret in America.
It is.
When people come here, they're like, this is the D?
Right.
This is what this is like?
I call us the big D. I say Dallas is the little D. I get them straight right immediately.
There's a flair to this city. But I had came here before because my best friend played for the Pistons. Josh Harrelson, for a little while, and he got married here, right on the river. I forget what that place is called right now, but I'll think about it. But he got married here. So I came here for his wedding. I was in the wedding, beautiful wedding. They had a cake that was like 14 feet tall.
Oh my God!
You know,
Who eats all that cake?
I don't know who even ate any of it. I think it was just a stunt, but it was beautiful. And they had it, so they could do that. He now plays in Japan, but I came here for the wedding.
Plays football?
Basketball.
Oh, basketball.
Yeah,
okay,
played for the
okay,
Pistons
okay.
and played in Miami with LeBron. So that's some stories
that was
too.
cool.
Yeah.
That's when you really had a good time.
Man.
Welcome to Miami.
Okay.
All right,
okay. So came to Detroit for that time, and it was beautiful. I stayed at the Westin Hotel downtown, and I just remember this like flare. The what is it? The streetcar was rolling around the city.
Yeah. The people mover.
The people mover was rolling. The water was beautiful down there. You could see Canada. I just remember all that. So when the call came to come to Detroit, a couple years later, I was like, of course I want the opportunity to work in a major city. And furthermore, remember the story of Art Holiday, the black man I watched on TV. I was like, I can be the Art Holiday for some young African Americans in Detroit.
Correct.
And that's what was important for me. And then I came to Detroit to WXYZ for 2 years.
That is channel. Tell the world, let them know what channel.
Channel 7.
Channel 7?
Yes.
And WXYZ is what affiliate?
What are they? ABC?
ABC. You're right, it's ABC.
Okay. Yeah. I forget sometimes. But so 2 years there, and then the mayor called.
Okay.
The mayor's
Which
office
mayor
called.
called you now? Because people around the world may not know who our mayor is and how this happened and everything.
Yeah, this is an international platform we're on, so I'm sorry. Mayor Mike Duggan's office called and said, we have an opportunity as a press secretary with the city. Would you be interested? And I said, me?
You said,
me? Why? I said, why me? And they said, we think that you have an ability to tell our story effectively and to connect with our community. Sometimes you don't always know the impact that you're making other people.
Never do. You never know because you're just doing it.
Just doing it, trying to take the right steps. And then I remember, covering stories. You're not proud of every story that you have to put out there because you're on a deadline, right? But every once in a while you get to cover a story or someone reaches out to you and says, we appreciate what you do. And so I thought that was a huge compliment.
It was and is.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And so, and I always told myself that I know I'm a journalist at heart, but I know there's going to be an opportunity that comes along that I'm going to have to jump. And I said, I can't be afraid to jump.
Cool.
And news will always be there, I believe. But these
more now than ever.
Yes, it will be on many different platforms too, right? But I said I need to jump and to get that experience.
I would agree. Working for government, you've always been in the private sector, and now you're going into government with the city of Detroit and Detroit's first white mayor in probably 40 years. So this was major in so many ways, because Mike Duggan was a person who was initially on the ballot, and then the court said he couldn't be on the ballot, that his residency was an issue, and then he did the only write-in campaign that's been successful in the state of Michigan. Actually, only two, as I understand it, in the country. The other one was in Alaska for the lady for a major office, and I consider yes, and she was able to do a write-in campaign, and she became a senator, I believe. That I forgot her name, McCloskey or someone like that. I forgot. But anyway, and then of course Mike Duggan did it here in a city that was like 95% black, probably at that time.
Pretty impressive.
Very impressive. He ran a hell of a campaign. I mean, he was everywhere. I think in his own story, he says that he was in like more than 1,000 people's homes. He would have people just invite their neighbors into their house. He really worked it. I remember when he was running, and I've known him for a long time because he was, as you know, the chief of staff for our former county exec, Ed McNamara, and then of course was head of the DMC. As the CEO for the Detroit Medical Center, which was the largest medical center in the state.
Which he saved, right?
Yeah. Which he did save. And so it was, so he was well known in that sense of the word, but he just ran a campaign like no other in the history of the state. And he's your boss, or was your boss, I guess, as head of the as the mayor when you were his press secretary.
Yeah. You know, you have many bosses, as they say, as you know. Let's just keep it all the way real, right? Let's just keep it real.
I'm just a slave, right? Whatever you guys say, when you said this, you say, okay, I'm on it.
The joke is around when you're in an appointed position, you're on a 24-hour contract every single day.
That is absolutely true.
And that's real. But you know, you
in the old days, Mayor Young used to, when you would get hired as a press secretary or hired as a department head, the same day that you signed your papers to come in to be an employee, you also signed your resignation letter. It had just, the date was just blank. Coleman didn't play.
Yes, yeah, which is good though. It keeps you on your toes.
That's right.
I'm grateful for this opportunity, and you know, I've been telling people, my family, you know, I share everything with them and keep their counsel, right? Those closest to me. But I really feel, Commissioner, that it's my season, and
that's wonderful.
yeah, and everything is just, I just feel so blessed. Like everything is in order, everything's just going well, step by step,
Yes,
and I
it
feel
is.
like I'm following the steps that
You
he's
are.
ordering, and so I feel like it's my season. Despite, and I don't want to take away from what we as a world have been through with the pandemic, right? And because we've lost so much.
Correct.
So I don't want to take away from that. Obviously, I know a lot of families are grieving still right now, and it's heartbreaking what our country's still going through. The pandemic's not over, but at least we turned the corner with the vaccine, thank God. But I really feel that it's my season right now, and I'm making the right choices.
I would agree. So, okay, now you're the press secretary for Mayor Duggan, a person who has obviously access to the White House, access to the world. And if you don't, ladies and gentlemen, believe that, all you have to do is go back through the 60 Minutes reports of this past year, and you will see a interview of a gentleman by the name of Jamie Dimon, who's the chairman of Chase Bank. He was actually in Detroit for about 5 years. Chase Bank is the largest bank in the entire world. In 5 minutes of Jamie Dimon's interview by 60 Minutes, he talks about the city of Detroit and Mike Duggan. I'm like, whoa! When I'm watching to see what Jamie
Yes.
Dimon's got to say, and all he talks about is Detroit and Mayor Duggan's ability to run things, energize people, get communities involved, get things done. DONE. And so the next time I saw the mayor, I teased him. I mean, actually, when I was sworn in as a commissioner, I said, Mr. Mayor, I'm on the microphone. I said, Mr. Mayor, I said, as much coverage as you got on 60 Minutes, are you sure you're going to be here? Because I just assumed Jamie Dimon was making you know, his executive vice president for global operations. And he teases me when he sees me. He says, Linda, for that $50 million, I guess I'd have to go.
You can't blame him, can you?
No,
Yes.
but I mean, to have that level of praise by a man who's the chairman of the board of the largest corporation bank in the world is significant. On 60 Minutes, no less. So the whole country heard about it. And he had Mayor Duggan's picture there and everything. I was like, wow. Yeah.
It's significant.
He
And
shared his interview with our mayor.
yes, and the powerful images of them walking down the streets of Detroit. I remember that story too. Mayor Duggan gets it done.
Yes, he does.
And people appreciate his candor, his honesty, and his direct approach.
Yes, but you know, he does what I've always believed in, and I always say a general is no better than her or his lieutenants. It's all about the team, and I say it differently from a sports standpoint. I say a good quarterback's not worth a damn without a good front line. I don't care if I could throw the ball to Canada from here. My arm will never get up if that front line isn't there giving me the opportunity to get my arm up. And so you're part of that front line. And all channels lead to you. It's like there are all these little fords over here and lakes and stuff, but the river goes back to media,
Yes.
everything, because it's all about how you portray it and how the mayor portrays it with your help,
Yes.
obviously.
Yeah.
So you were the press secretary.
So yes, Commissioner. So 3 months.
Okay, so wait a minute. I'm going to come back to the 3 months. Ladies and gentlemen, again, you're watching Chop It Up with attorney Linda Bernard, live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, and other top social media platforms. Like, follow, share, comment, and subscribe. And thank you for watching WJZZ TV, the coolest station in the world. Okay, now, we're talking today with, pull that badge out, with Deputy Chief, we're talking to say, with D.C. Harper, Deputy Chief Rudy Harper, He's actually kind of, sort of, not necessarily new, but he certainly wasn't born in Detroit. Who now, of course, is the deputy chief for the police department. We're gonna get to that in a minute, because right now he's the press secretary, and everybody in the city was like, "Who? Rudy Harper's gonna be the press secretary?" He's young. He's not a super seasoned person.
True.
In media, and there are all these big heads, old heads, new heads out here.
Like
that,
who? Yes.
Yeah. And why would he pick this brother? I mean, this young guy. I mean, who is he?
Right.
So you've been telling us who you are.
Yes.
So I appreciate that. So now you're press secretary.
Yes.
For the city of Detroit. And you've never been in government before, with no government relations experience, with no government experience, period.
No government experience at all. I've always prided myself in that got you journalism. I've always just tried to be upfront with people. Mm-hmm. Like, this is what we're doing. Mm-hmm. This is the story that I'm telling. And I would appreciate if I got a response. And I try to have that relationship with like everybody I interacted with.
That's
right?
Smart.
And because
you get both sides.
Yeah, because what's the story with just one side? It was never. It's not a good story.
It's an advertisement.
Right. It's not a good.
It's propaganda.
Right. It's not a good story, and so I always prided myself not only getting the stories, but telling my stories, and then having good sources. And I was effective at having good sources and knowing things in the community.
You were, huh?
Yes.
So if you were one of those reporters that was faced with when you go to federal court, tell me your sources, mm-hmm. or you're going to go to jail, you're going to be in contempt of court.
I'm not giving them up.
You're not giving them up.
Mm-mm,
so
I'm
then we
loyal.
have to go out there and march around the courthouse and try to save and protect your First Amendment rights, of the right of the press, the freedom of the press.
Yeah, people forget about that's the First Amendment.
That is the first. That's number one. Numero uno.
Yes, it is. Not number two, number one. But so 3 months as a press secretary, I'm in the demolition department. Now, that's a story in itself, right?
Tell me about it, right.
So now,
for you, for the federal government, for the FBI, everybody. Right.
Correct. So now we have the proposal and money, the neighborhood bonds, $250 million to address vacant homes and to stabilize homes left behind. You bring up Detroit. Everything starts in Detroit, I believe, and trickles down to other places. I've seen it happen, I believe. That's why when you talk about the mayor and the president, CEO of Chase Bank, speaking about this city and what's going on here, I think everything starts in and trickles down.
Okay.
From music to fashion, arts and culture. I mean, our women here, like you, Commissioner, you set the standard. For many things.
We have some pretty women in Detroit. No.
Beautiful.
and some fine men like you.
Yeah, well, thank you. But, I mean, and then, working with DPD, we have some intelligent lieutenants and sergeants and commanders. But we'll talk about that. So, demolition department, and I'm assigned to LaJuan Counts, who's we believe is the only African-American demolition director in the country.
Okay. LaJuan is a gentleman or lady?
Director, female.
Oh, that's what I thought.
Yeah,
I thought it was
only
a girl
woman.
name.
Yeah, director in the demolition director in the country, and she's on top of everything. She's been with the city for nearly 24 years.
Okay.
And she was with the GSD, which is the General Services Department. Mm-hmm. She was leading a team there, and they tapped her to become the demolition director. And she tells the story brilliantly. Excuse me, I can't say the word. She tells the story so well. She says, Rudy, I was building community centers. I was, revitalizing parks in our community. And she said, it was great. I was off the radar. I could get stuff done. I didn't have to deal with the media or the city council people.
Right, she could take care of business.
That's all. That was her goal.
Right.
And she said, I always thought I was going to do international construction, travel the world and do that. But she said, I'm from Detroit. I was here. And she said, I accepted the demolition director job because I wanted young black females, young black girls, and women to understand that there is a place for us in the construction business. There's room and space for us, and you can do it. So that's why she decided to jump and become the demolition director, and it's a huge job right now.
That's very interesting because most women who are involved in construction or demolition either inherited it from their father or their husband.
Mm-hmm.
and many companies became women business enterprises, WBEs, as a result of marriage. You know, he just put 51% in my name so he could get the benefit of that designation in terms of contracting, or minority business enterprise.
Correct.
If you know, because I was black, whatever it is. But it's really good that this is a woman who had this as a personal goal, without any male, if you will, supervision or intervention,
Yes.
or persuasion. But go ahead, I'm listening.
Yes, and so she's
a bad sister.
Yes, she
I like
is.
her already.
Oh, and she's authentic. You know, you ever meet authentic people who are just themselves unapologetically?
Mm-hmm.
That's who she is.
That's
and
wonderful.
It's wonderful working with her because you know exactly who she is. I was with her this week because we have a segment called Cruising with Counts. Where Cruising with Counts. That's her last name, LaJuan Counts.
Okay.
Cruising with Counts. And we go out to different neighborhoods and interact with the community. So we connect with community block clubs and just even residents. And we go out and see firsthand what it's like to live next to that home with the roof falling, or that home that's burned up, or the block that has 5 or 6 homes that are left behind and dilapidated. And the community tells us that we're upset, and
Right.
and she takes that to heart. I'll tell you this story, and it makes we were out one day with Commissioner Benson, and we were rolling around the city looking at different
Councilman
properties.
Benson.
Councilman
Right.
Benson, yes. And he took us by a lady's home. She was probably in her 60s, 70s, and there's 2 homes directly across from her house, and they were just, I mean, Commissioner, they were bad. I mean, just real bad. And we were walking back to the car, and LaJuan says, "Ooh," she almost made me cry
Oh.
because she's been dealing with, you know, the rodents, the eyesore, you know, the inviting criminal activity into these homes for so long, years. And so someone was looking up the property and the information about it as we were driving away, and LaJuan was in another vehicle, and she stopped and pulled up next to her. She said, "I have to go back and tell her that we're going to get those down right away. I have to go back." She turned around and left the, you know, motorcade that we were going to the next spot to go
That was cool.
comfort the lady and then let her know that I have to do something.
She
for
really
you.
hurt her.
She heard
This
her.
wasn't a media
No.
spin. This was for real, for
It's
real.
for real.
In other words, I got this,
Yeah, yeah.
and she meant it.
And she meant it, but she never would have known if she didn't take the initiative to go out and just connect.
Yeah, and just for your information, in terms of that, Rudy, Detroit had more more single family black homeowners than any city in the country. We had a huge housing stock when we were at like 1.2 million residents in the city of Detroit. That's why you see so many tracts, either 30-foot tracts, in some instances 45-foot tracts, with so many homes. And now, because the population has left the city of Detroit, many of these homes have fallen into disrepair, and they're just sort of just hanging there. And this has been going on for many years, as you indicated. But you know, it's like that old adage: each one teach one. And so each time you were able, and LaJuan were able to address this situation affirmatively,
Yes,
then it made a difference.
it did.
A journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step.
Wow.
So you guys did it. I'm proud of you. Thank you for helping my sister lady who lives in the city of Detroit, who now has some hope for her neighborhood, and for helping our community so very, very much, because I'm a native Detroiter. So
Yeah.
I really appreciate that.
That's her job, right?
Yeah, but you helped her with that job. I mean, it's the team, remember?
Yes.
I mean, you helped.
Yes. And I take that seriously though. As a city employee, customer service is our number one.
Correct.
We have to. What are we here for if we're not serving?
You're absolutely right.
So, and you speak about the homes in Detroit, beautiful homes. You can see the bones.
Magnificent housing stock, that would be hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in other cities.
Beautiful.
It is unbelievable. It was a well laid out. It's a well laid out city, 144 square miles. We have the first freeway in the United States, as you know, the very first one, and Woodward Avenue is Route 1. Because if you look at the pictures of the old days and so forth, when people just had Model T cars and everything, that was the way you were getting around. But we had a real community here, very vigorous community, more than 1 million people. And so the city was laid out for 1 million people. Well, now we've got like less than 700,000.
Correct.
So, you know, it's a big change. So without the population, you're going to have the blight. in some, but on the other hand, I also don't like land grabs by corporations, people outside of the city of Detroit, people outside of the country, in terms of Detroit, which is just another way of sort of grifting, if you will.
With the trees,
as you know.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, I totally understand where you're coming from there, which is an important conversation to have.
Yes, it is.
And it's one that's being had.
Well, I'm
right
glad
now.
to hear that. I'm glad. So you're the press secretary. So you're out rolling around the city with Lawan,
Yes.
and checking things out and learning as you're going. Your brain's just on overtime, I'm sure.
Yes.
And so you were responsible for getting a proposal in passed.
So-
It was, ladies and gentlemen, it was called proposal in for proposal for the neighborhoods.
Yes.
In order to have a bond issue that would fund the demolition of structures that were no longer feasible. No longer whatever you want to call it, and obviously to help with the rehabilitation of those that were feasible.
Right. So exactly $250 million. So
Okay, that's what it
how
was.
much the bond is for, and it will address.
$250 million.
Yes.
You go, boy. I'm proud of you.
Well, it was
the
established.
mayor.
It was established before I got there, but I was there to make sure that we're communicating with the public on how we're utilizing these funds, because taxpayers have the right to know how their money's being used, right?
Correct.
And so we.
Because a bond is a tax. We have to pay it back. And it's on the residents of the city of Detroit to pay it back. So it's important that it be appropriated properly and that it be spent properly.
That's correct. And so my thing was, going into this press secretary, I quickly established a newsletter page that we send out to the community every month, and then also access to communicate with us instantly. So I created a form that people can go to the DetroitMI.gov website, the demolition page, and they can submit a question or concern, and it instantly goes to us, and we can instantly respond. And I think people really enjoyed that access to us and getting answers, because some people said, it's been a year before anybody would tell me about this property. It's been a problem. Can you do something about it? And so we're able to hear their concerns, and we're able to share those with the director, because you can't take phone calls, 24-hour phone calls all the time, right?
No.
And so you miss some things. So this is a way, in the age of social media and the age of the digital age of online, we're giving the people instant access to communicate with us. And also, one thing that Lawan, Director Counts, was big on is that we don't put people on hold or transfer them. We give them an answer instantly on the phone. We don't.
So you have to just have someone that's responding that knows what they're talking about.
Yes.
Not just a receptionist taking a note.
Yes. So,
I see.
and you don't put people on hold. You say, 1 second, I'm going to get you the answer now.
Wow.
Yes.
You did that?
Yeah, that's
that
what
has
we did.
never happened in the city of Detroit. Ever.
Well, it's important that people have answers.
I would
Commissioner.
agree. I would agree. But that's a level of customer service that is above and beyond anything that we've ever had, and you created that.
Well, Director Counts also established that, because she's worked for the city for 20 plus years.
I understand.
And she said, no, people are tired of being transferred to another department or
On
somewhere
hold.
else. On hold.
Disconnected. We know the drill.
No, they need an answer now. So it was
Wow.
awesome. Yeah.
I did not know that existed.
I'm telling people, try it. Go to DetroitMI.gov
Okay.
and go to the demolition page, and there's questions or concerns. Fill it out, your question or concern, and I would guarantee that you would get a response
Okay.
soon, right away. I don't want to say 24 hours and you wait 48 hours, but you would get a response soon. And in fact, I called a lot of people and just had a conversation with them about the property, and we would send out the environmental department in Detroit to go check the property, just to ensure that it wasn't an emergency that needs to come down right away.
A nuisance.
A nuisance, because some of those properties are a danger to neighbors
Oh,
and
of course
different
they are.
things.
And they
could-
have been for a long, long time.
So we wanted to address it, and we've had many homes that were torn down in a week because somebody called.
But also part of that problem, because I had a client who lived in one for months. She was homeless and had a mental illness issue. Many people, they just move in, even though they
Squatters.
don't have any lights or gas or toilets or anything like that, because they don't have any place else to go. What do you? Did this proposal as well address that issue of homelessness? Proposal in for neighborhoods?
It did not address homelessness, but it did address. It did provide funds to hire field liaisons. to communicate with people about properties ahead of time. So we have every demolition that happens, a city employee is on site to witness it. And before we tear down a home, we have city employees and asbestos surveys and abatement that happens. And we have a city employee that's there to communicate with the community.
So if there was a homeless person in it, you
Yep.
all would talk about, they would have a chance to get their stuff,
Yep.
whatever little stuff they had,
Yep.
and they know that it's coming. They're not just coming in with a bulldozer. You know, I've got my 3 kids. I'm talking about women with children, 3 kids in this place, and we're just staying there because we don't have any place else to
It
go.
did not happen that way.
I'm glad
They would
to
have
hear
a
that.
conversation with them about this is the process that's happening right now, and this is a plan to get rid of this dilapidated home.
And if that was the case, they could have contacted you or Lawan, and you guys would be on it.
They have resources that
Right.
our field
You- you-
liaisons
you-
know to
You
communicate.
connect the dots
Yeah.
for them, which is what's important,
Right.
because you have the ability and the intellect and the education.
Well, yeah, it's not, the goal is not to, displace anyone.
Right.
The goal is to try to clean up the neighborhoods.
Right.
So.
And help you at the same time. Help that person, that mother
Sure.
with those 3
Yeah,
kids.
we have so many resources in this city to help people.
Thank you.
To help, and there's so many groups that we have access to.
But it's not. I agree with you about the resources, but it's also about the personal commitment. It's a character test for you, for the mayor, for me, to address concerns. If I always say systemically, at the root of the problem, and try to move people in situations forward. It's not casual. It's serious. And so, I try to treat things that way, both, as a lawyer as well as a police commissioner. And I really appreciate your sensitivity, and if you will, and the mayor's sensitivity to these issues. Because when you really, don't have lights, gas, or toilet or anything, and you just in an abandoned house, it's tight on you. I mean, and you see it throughout the country in terms of homelessness. In America right now, it's a major problem, and I do not understand how it's not being addressed and how we're contributing to that problem at the border and in other areas. It makes no sense.
These issues are not going away anywhere soon.
Right, we got to deal with it.
Yeah,
And we're dealing with it in Detroit.
Yes, and
The homeless issue we're dealing with. You don't see people in tents and stuff, and even under the freeway here at 8 Mile and everything. Most of that has been cleaned up. I mean, by cleaned up, I don't mean moving people or destroying their stuff. That's not the way to do it. But making sure that everyone has a roof over their head is important to me, because before you got here, Rudy, there was a man that used to be in a wheelchair, a black man, a lot of hair, near the freeway downtown. I'd see him every day. Every day I'd give him $1. He'd be in this wheelchair there, and he had no legs. He had no feet. And I talked to him one day, and he told me, I said, "What happened to your legs? Were you in the war or something?" He said, "No." He said, "I had frostbite, and I had both my legs that were amputated from the knee down." So that's what happened. Everyone knew him. He had a lot of hair, beautiful, big afro. But I mean, that's what happens to people in Michigan because of the cold. So he lost both of his feet because of frostbite in order to save his life. I'll never forget him, and I've never forgotten that, about how important it is for us to listen and take care of other human beings.
I'm on a board of a nonprofit called Care Beyond the Boulevard in Kansas City, Missouri.
Oh,
And it's in Kansas City, Missouri, but I'm still on the board. And our mission is to provide free health care to those in need, no questions asked.
I like that. Again, ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Chop It Up with attorney Linda Bernard and my very distinguished and handsome guest, Mr. Rudy Harper, who is a deputy chief for the Detroit Police Department, which we're getting ready to talk about. We're streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and other top social media platforms. Follow us, share your comments, subscribe to the station, and thank you again for watching WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the city of Detroit, and actually in the country. But anyway, while we're on the subject, okay, DPD.
Okay.
Now you are a black man. Black men are, have trepidation about the police with good reason, in many instances, even from black officers. So spin for me. Spin from being in the community and dealing with the homeless and housing and all this stuff to being with the popo.
My head was spinning. So 3 months after I joined the city, I get a call that, Chief Craig is retiring, and he did not have a second deputy chief over media relations, and they were looking for someone, and they asked me if I was interested. So now I'm like 3 months in demolition. I'm just getting started over here in this department, and I've got this close bond with the team over there. I mean, we're close in that team, and now you want me to go here to DPD. And I thought
to the police.
To the police. In this
this is
in
during
this
the
climate,
George Floyd stuff, right?
In this climate,
right?
And I'm like, have they seen my social media? Like, I'm one of those like outspoken people about accountability and issues with our police.
Transparency.
Yeah, I mean, because I've been stopped before.
Yes, of course you have.
I had the conversation as a kid with my family. You know, the conversation that says, when you're pulled over, this is what you need to do.
Right. Don't die.
Yes.
Right.
Don't move too fast. But this is the thing, and why I accepted the position, because I moved to Detroit. And I moved to Detroit, and there was a different attitude with our police officers.
There is.
They looked like me. They acted like me. They wave, they talk to you when they see you on the street. It's not like this, you know, I'm big and bad.
Right.
So it made the decision a little easier to join the police force. And furthermore, if you don't have a seat at the table, how can you create change?
You cannot. That is so smart on your part. And part of what you're talking about in terms of the culture of the Detroit Police Department, it's true for both black officers and white officers. Because in many instances, of course, black officers can be as abusive, if not more so, than white officers. So, but it's a culture issue, even more so to me than a race issue. And I've raised it several times at the commission meetings. I mean, the only place I have this position. The only place I heard a friend said once, a police officer, the only place that it was safe for 5 black men to be is on a basketball court. Because if you're in a car, you're gonna get stopped because of the color of your skin, just because of your complexion. You got to be doing something wrong. You know, you've either got to have warrants, or you got to have a gun, or you got to have drugs. Because there's 5 black guys, or 4 black guys in the car, and that's a problem, a real problem for me. And so that is for me systemic racism.
It is, without a doubt.
And so so we don't have that in Detroit, like you have it in many other cities. If you guys giddy up tonight, you and your 4 buddies get in a car tonight, and you drive up to Lansing or to Grand Rapids, it may be a different situation.
Right.
Go to Grand Rapids, Michigan. But this automatic knee-jerk reaction to seeing 5 black guys other than on a basketball court.
Right. In Detroit, that's normal, right?
All the time.
Right. And so, and like I said at the beginning, I feel like it's my season. So when the opportunity came along, I knew that that door was open and that I was going to step through it.
Okay.
And
especially now.
Especially right now. Sometimes people need an outside perspective at the table.
Always.
And always, you're right.
Always.
And the position to me was, and it is, that I'm on an executive team member, and my boss is Chief White. I report to Chief White.
Correct.
And we communicate every day, and I know that, I hope, my goal is to make sure that he understands that I'll have a different perspective, and that I'll give him my truth, and he gives me his.
He is such an Chief James White is such an excellent listener. I think it's because of his training and the fact that he was the civil rights director for the entire state of Michigan, which has never happened with a police chief before. And he's also had mental health training and so forth. I mean, this is a brother that's in a whole different category here. He's not just law enforcement. Where's my baton? Where's my gun? This is what I've done my whole life. He is much broader in terms of his perspective than any police chief I think that we've ever had.
Yes.
And we've had some very good chiefs in the past, but his perspective is broad and encompassing, and that's what I like about him so much. But tell me what you guys are doing at DPD now that you want to get the public to know about.
You'll see a lot of things happening. We're going to have a big emphasis on connecting with our community through social media platforms and in the community. DPD has always had a strong relationship with residents here in Detroit. I think some people just don't know about it.
Okay.
So we want to share those stories.
Okay.
Our officers love our community. They love young people. and
Okay.
that's what they want to do.
Okay, so that's what you want to do. All right, well, I guess we're going to have to end there. I see that my red light is on, which
Yes.
means stop. At least for me. For some people, it doesn't mean that. It means go faster.
Right,
But
right.
anyway, Rudy, I want you to come back, and I want you to talk about the Operation Restore and the issues. And I like your perspective from the outside in now about crime and about what's happening in our community. And I also want to share my perspective with you as an attorney who's the person they call, who defends people who have been arrested. When you're arrested, that does not mean you're guilty.
True.
As we both know, it's a charge. It's not a conviction. So I want to talk to you about that and what you see are going to be the material changes within the department.
That's a good conversation. I look
Yeah, it
forward
is.
to
It is.
having
It
that
is.
conversation. I just thought about something that you said. So, yes, let's
Okay.
do that.
Well, I'll look forward to it. Ladies and gentlemen, you have before you the first deputy chief in terms of media relations in the history of the City of Detroit Police Department.
I don't know
He's a
about
de-
the history, but
It is. We've never had a deputy chief.
Wow.
That's what you say. We've had media relations, but never a deputy chief.
Wow.
You are the man with a plan, with the smile, with the charisma to deliver the message of our officers who are honorable and who generally will stand down to avoid conflict and to avoid endangering the community, which is what I respect and love about DPD the most. Mr. Rudy Harper, you're right. That is your season. And you are only going up from here. I mean, that scaffold is high. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Certainly, God bless you. And again, you're watching Chop It Up with attorney Linda Bernard. Soup, soup, soup. Live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, and other top social media platforms. You're always welcome to subscribe, to comment, and to share any aspect of our broadcast. We're all over the world, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you for watching WJZZ Cool TV.